Hi there, there's one more session today and it's Bitcoin Cash. So a few days ago I received a comment asking, let me enlarge this, can I also cover BCH and LTC? So for sure, since things are getting smoother, I'll include both. So later on after this session, I'll add a new post to the community tab and laid out where LTC would be. BCH would be on Friday as of this time, the same time we're having this session now. So since it's new, we have a fresh chart to play with. So let me borrow some Wyckoff stages tag from, let's say, Bitcoin, and then plug it into this chart. So quickly from Bitcoin, weekly chart. We'll do the daily in a few minutes, but let's quickly pick a few key stages. Buying climax, automatic reaction, second test, sign of weakness, preliminary supply, backup, last point of support, sign of strength, last point of support, spring, second test, automatic rally, settling climax, and preliminary support. Let's copy them all, and Bitcoin Cash. There we go. Let's paste them all here and then move them to their relevant location. Let's put it here, the buying climax, the preliminary supply. Second test, not much of a second test for this one. We'll put it aside. That's more an automatic rally, not rally, automatic reaction. And let's copy this over here. That's probably an LPSY. So then sign of weakness, not much as well for this cycle. That was a very short cycle over here back in 2024, and it was a very quick, I would say, accumulation cycle as well. With selling climax, automatic rally, and then second test, and then not much of a spring. I would say there's a backup of LPS. Even the sign of strength is pretty weak, not significant, or I should say. And then we have this buying climax back in December last year. Yeah, that can be, like, we can consider that PSY, but it's too BCE to add in some more tags. So same thing happened over here. And then we have the selling climax. The second test, since it got lower than the selling climax, so let's put a spring over there, an automatic rally, and backup and LPS, very short one over there. And then we have immediately the PSY period and the buying climax. We may have already seen it. You see this lower and lower and lower top. So be really careful when this happens, especially it's spreading across over a year. Keep an eye on whether the project is still healthy, the developer communities, or whether there's any new adoption, because whenever we see an altcoin with this kind of getting lower and lower and lower, that's not a healthy sign. But one thing we should be glad is it hasn't gone lower than these levels. So those are the levels that I would be really worried if it go past this green line. So while we're drawing this, let me draw the long-term playground zone as well. So this would, I would say, it's probably, no, not this one here. This is the center line. Let me get rid of the green one because I want to replace it with the box. So this looks to me is the center line of the box where it should go. And let's expand it and change it to white. That's how I get the long-term playground zone. Right now is at the top edge of the playground zone. So I'll keep this here, and then I'll add a center line as well. I prefer to draw a center line myself rather than using like setting it as like this real center line of the box, because I can adjust it based on what I see, like the peaks and the frequent activities that happens. So that's pretty much what happened over the course of past maybe a year and a quarter. Basically, this was the price range that BCH has been trading within, around 330 to all the way to 590 or 600. As of this moment, it's having a bit of resistance at the top edge of the box. Just in case we forget, this is the long-term playground zone. And I want it to be white. So there it goes. Need to refresh it a bit. Yeah, there we go. We'll keep this over here, and the other text, let's say I have the sign of strength, copy this backup LPS, not the line, this tag over here, the selling climax. We can consider some more tests over here, this little red candle, well, last point of support, you can say, or you can skip it, preliminary support, over here, a little automatic rally. So, I won't get to this bigger distribution cycle because it should be enough for now. From the big picture, if this is really the buying climax, what we will see is an automatic reaction. So an automatic reaction is the price retracement from the climax after like the momentum has gone. So sorry again, I always forget to change back to the charts. So that was what I'm saying. So we have plugged in all these tags, Wyckoff tags for BCH. And if this is really the buying climax, what we're seeing now this week or last week, the automatic reaction is what we are going to expect to see, much like what happened in December and April last year. So it's a price retracement from the climax, and it may find support and eventually get a little peak. Let me change to a line chart. You see after the automatic rally, there's this one is an LPSY. You can consider them tests. So whether they're called last point of supply or second test or upthrust after distribution, it doesn't matter. It's just a test of whether there are any outstanding demand for this particular asset. So already talk about automatic reaction, and that's the big picture. We expect some retracement if this upward momentum hasn't been over, because this has been a little bit choppy. You see the red candles within the greens, right? Last two times there was less frequent red candles. So last distribution cycle back in November to December 2024, there was one red candle, just one, where like between the leg upward. There were two back in March 2024, from late February to early April. This time it's taking alternate. Every one green there is like one red. So people seem to be getting really skeptical about the climb of Bitcoin Cash. Might as well because Bitcoin is climbing so fiercely. People may invest over there rather than here. That's why we've got a lower peak as well as this jugged movement. If we go to the daily chart, once again, I need to borrow some text from Bitcoin. So we have the preliminary support selling climax auto. I don't want a box. I want automatic rally, sign of strength, spring, back up, last point of support, preliminary supply, buying climax, automatic reaction, second test, sign of weakness, up thrust. That should be enough. And oh, one more actually, last point of supply. Back to BCH daily chart. So let's paste them and move them across to fit in our chart. I would drag it over here because that's where the accumulation and the current distribution cycle is. So things happen much more frequently in a daily chart. In a matter of 1 to 2 days, you can have exactly 1 to 2 stages happened already. So we have this LPSY over here, preliminary support, and selling climax, automatic rally. Interesting, that's a spring. Sign of strength, this may be one. And back up last point of support, this PSY period over here. And eventually we're heading towards a buying climax. So I'm not sure whether you're observing this rainbow-like move. It's basically a weakening momentum. So if it's really strong, it should be going up like this, but it's now going like this. So as well as the long wick at the top as well, plus the higher volume, it might be really losing steam at this point. So let's add in the remaining tags for the Wyckoff. So like I said, in the weekly chart, the automatic reaction is what we're expecting. And a support line, if you ask, I would take reference from what happened over here back in late 2024. That's also the support for the previous two little mountains, or three actually. Let's put it as green. So I was referring to this point, and this point. You see all the wicks or the candles closes or stopped right near that. And also these peaks as well over here. So this $487, what did I say? $487 is a good reference point. I'll just keep it here. It's fine to also see it in the weekly, but it's probably too busy, so I just keep it on the daily time frame. So remember, roughly 485 to 487 is the mark where the support is, and the automatic reaction hopefully will stop somewhere here and then show us a second test to retest the white line, assuming the buying climax is over. If it hasn't, it can obviously try what it did back in December in 2024. I just want to move these tags aside because we're not seeing them up first. We don't need it. Sign of weakness we can do later. We can put it over here for now. So that buying climax, we can copy one to here. Automatic reaction, put one here. That was pretty, I wouldn't say low. There was a second test, but it was a bit flatter. Yeah, that's pretty much for the previous distribution cycle back in December 2024. Obviously, we can move across this PSY tag over here, and much like the rest, you can basically, or we can basically put in all these, so like climax, automatic rally, and then, well, we can call that spring, and basically it's just another test. So for here or put test, you can say a second test, but basically all of them are tests. Sign of strength, yeah, these are probably sign of strengths. And back up LPS over this here. That's when right before it shoots up. So yeah, if you have requested for this, I hope you're happy what we're seeing here. Basically, in summary, from a daily time frame perspective, which is more frequent, we can see we're somewhere near a buying climax and the automatic reaction coming down to test a support line, and then maybe a little bit of second test what we're expecting. This is the reference point, December 2024. From a weekly time frame, same thing. It was likely a buying climax that we've seen earlier this week, but given the current climb is a bit different. I already mentioned for every 1 to 2 green candles there was one red candle. It's very different from the two distribution cycle back in December 2024 and April 2024. So what I was talking about are these. For every 1 to 2 green candles there were one red candle. So it's different from all these green candles legs upwards. So here it may not be over yet, so I have put down a question mark for the buying climax. It may still test or go above this white resistance line at around $580. Then it will come down to find a support for the automatic reaction. So a good reference would be the last two automatic reaction level. That's around $430. I put, yeah, the yellow line just on this interval and see whether it will come down, but it may take some time, like probably 2 to 4 weeks, somewhere between that. And let's see whether we will see this happen within August. So that's new Bitcoin Cash.